Steven Poacher, the Carlow coach, is on the line. Steven, good morning to you.
How's things? How are you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good stuff.
Happy scenes on the bus. What was that dressing room like afterwards?
Oh, hey, listen, it was special. It was special now. Just listening there myself on the phone there, it brings a smile to my face because, it was an overwhelming feeling of relief probably at the final whistle. Something that the county has dreamed about for over 33 years now of getting out of Division 4 and progressing, and the relief and the absolute overriding joy was just brilliant. It was fantastic, and I suppose for myself to seal it in the north of the country was nice too. Because it meant the bus journey home was pretty much full of fun.
When did you end up getting involved with Turlough, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, it was quite random actually. Turlough and Tommy Wogan came down to my coaching day that I run every year in St. Clement's, Kilkeel, my young school. It's a coach education clinic, and the guys came down about 3 years ago and asked me to come in and take a couple of sessions. So about 2 years ago, I took a handful of sessions in 2016. I think 2 or 3 sessions before they played in the championship. And at the end of that year, Turlough had asked me to get involved in 2017 on a more sort of permanent basis. And obviously, the travel factor and things like that was very much, in my thoughts. But I decided to take the plunge, and I went down in 2017. And, at the start of the National League, we probably took, I would say we took a session, maybe one session a week, one football session a week. And then as the National League progressed, it went to 2. And then obviously come the championship, it was more full time. So, obviously then 2018, we sort of reset our goals after the summer of 2017, because we really probably were the story of the championship last year, and I think, our goals then obviously had to be to push on and progress and drive for that promotion.
Yeah, so just to go back to 2017, not to skip over it too much, because when you say you were the story of the championship, like there was definitely one of those Saturday evenings, the game was on TV and everybody starts tuning in going, hang on a second, what's going on here? How is this going to happen? And like, where did that come from last year? Where did that sense of adventure as the championship progressed actually start to infect the players, and when did they begin to believe that something was possible?
I think personally the turning point was we drew away to Westmeath in the first round of the National League, and we really thought that we could compete in the National League last year. But then the following week we were dealt an absolute hammer blow and we lost at home to London. And to come from there where it was, the changing room was it was toxic. It was a horrendous feeling, and everyone, there's a lot of soul searching after that. But we took a bit of a gamble after that, and we went to Armagh on a Saturday to cross McLean to play Armagh in a challenge game. And it was a big gamble because we were going down there with a number of injuries. We were going down on a Saturday, a couple of people weren't available, and we ended up winning by a point. And I felt we came out of that and we discovered a few things. We toyed about with a few things that day, and we unearthed a certain Sean Murphy that day in the middle of the field. And, I think the lads grew a lot of confidence from that, and you could see the progress developing. We actually won our last 3 games in the National League last year. So we've actually won 9 consecutive National League games in a row, which is no mean feat, and is a tremendous record. But I could definitely feel the momentum growing from the second part of the league last year. I could see it. I think the players started to believe in the system a little bit more. People were a bit more comfortable with the way we were playing. And I feel we carried that into the championship, obviously, when we beat Wexford, the first Leinster win in 6 years. And then obviously the game against Dublin, and people look at that Dublin game and probably think, Dublin, it was the only team Dublin didn't score a goal against. They hardly even created a goal chance against us. And, I know there was a lot of factors in it. It was Dublin's first game. It was in Portlaoise and different things like that. But we actually, we installed a belief into the players that we could compete with the best, and that was very important. And then obviously our wins against London and Leitrim were fantastic. And, against Monaghan, it was 9 points all with 5-6 minutes to go, and we had 3 or 4 big plays and got the ball turned over on all 4 occasions. A lack of experience probably, and we could have beat Monaghan. We really could have. So I could definitely sense a belief and a momentum gathering from the second half of the National League last year. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to me after that Monaghan game that there wasn't a sense of contentment, that it was like, all right, we held our own against a Division 1 team for most of a championship game. There was a sense of disappointment, and there was a sense that Carlow can actually push on from this, that it wasn't like, right, 2017 was a great summer, that was our lot, that's our journey, and that's done. That felt like the start of something.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And ironically, actually, the Monaghan game, 2 weeks before the National League, we went on a training weekend. Well, it's a training weekend. We went for an overnight stay in the Johnston House in Kildare. We trained a couple of times and we played a challenge game in Sligo. And actually, on that night, I had done a bit of analysis on the Monaghan game, and we did a bit of video work on it, and I think, you know, it was important to go back to it and show the lads how close we were, you know, to challenging a Division 1 team, and, you know, and showing them more or less how close it could have been, in the fact that if you'd have beaten Monaghan, you'd have been playing down in Croke Park, and you'd have been one game away from an All-Ireland quarter-final, you know, and that's how close things were, and it wasn't just a token gesture, well done Carlow sort of thing. We could see and smell progress, and, you know, testament to the lads have been fantastic. Turlough is a brilliant players man. He's a brilliant man manager. He looks after players, not just physically but mentally as well. He looks after players and gives people breaks when they need to take breaks. There's no gun held to anybody's head. I hear stories of county players feeling they're trapped, county players not enjoying training. We certainly enjoy our training, and we certainly enjoy our wins, and, you know, players are allowed to express themselves. We're allowed to talk to the media. We can, you know, it's a wonderful place to coach in, to be honest with you. It really is. Yeah,
they've been sending match reports after games. Like, they've been completely open, and have actually won a bunch of neutrals over by the fact that their WhatsApp match reports out going, I've seen some of them, and they've been hilarious. And it's actually, like, it's the type of thing that GAA really needs, particularly in Divisions 3 and 4. So there isn't this sense of players being trapped, and that actually we all remember that the players love doing this, and that's why they got involved in the first place. Just to go back to a couple of things, Stevie, the style of play that you've built, obviously with a team like Carlow, where there is this long, deep-seated, multi-generational history of defeats. What was the system that you wanted to put in place, and how do you begin to build that, and what's next for that?
Well, look, it's like anything, you know. It's a process that takes a period of time, you know. And I could see progress, you know, last year, but obviously we wouldn't have been content with certain aspects of the game and certain aspects of our style. And obviously the very first thing was that myself and Turlough identified was defensively we were conceding too many scores. And, you know, I think the basis of any successful team is to get that aspect right first and foremost before we start looking at the offensive end of things. So last year was very much, you know, work in progress. It was very much install a template that gave us a great, you know, strong defensive platform to build from. And I think after the National League last year, in the 4 divisions, we were the 3rd best defensive record in the 4 divisions. Now, obviously, this year then was step 2 and stage 2 of the progress, and that was obviously to develop the offensive end of things, you know. And I suppose I know certain people in the media obviously a little pop at me for some game or something I put up on when I was doing a coaching clinic a few weeks ago, the name of the game or something like that. But it's quite ironic that people would be quick to criticise these things when they've actually never seen them, which always makes me chuckle. But no, I think the offensive end of things has improved massively this year. Like, we've scored 107 points. You know, we scored 10 goals. We have a plus 35 scoring difference. You know, I think we've averaged about 18, 19 points a game this year. And even against Antrim on Sunday past there, you know, we were the first team to score a goal against the Antrim. Are obviously very, very defensive, and they get a lot of bodies back. They play a very rigid system themselves, and, you know, even to go to Belfast and score 112 shows that the offensive end of things has definitely progressed, and I think that's testament to the players. I've asked them. I've produced a template for the game plan. I said, there's your role. You know, we've made the roles clear, and the players have all accepted their roles, and I think that's critical in any system, in any team, that you have role clarity and then you have role acceptance from the players, and that's something that we've hammered home from day one, that we will provide the roles clear as day. It's up to them then to accept them. And to be fair, certain players have sacrificed their own game and have worked very, very hard to play. And the thing of it is, it's working, and the players can see it's working, and it's been successful. And, you know, I suppose that we're still progressing. You know, we're not finished yet, and we're still progressing. And there's absolutely no reason why this momentum that the players have and the county has now can't be harnessed and push on next year as well. There's no reason at all. You
brought up the criticism. Well, let's just talk about it, because it was Brolly, and he had a go at a tweet you had about there was a session you were holding in Skerry's Harps, and you listed off the games that you were playing, and triple transition scoring game, multiple restart transition game, drop down and drive transition game, kick and transition game, run it or kick it transition game, blast off transition game. What are those transition games?
Well, look, I think, to be honest with you, I think it wasn't just Joe. I think there was a guy, Parkinson or something as well, on a radio show. I didn't listen to it. I don't listen to his show, but I think he had a bit of a nibble at me too. You know, and to be honest with you, I was laughing, because these games, ironically, and this is the funny thing about it, Joe was very much critical of the whole defensive aspect of things, and ironically, there was 9 games, and all 9 of them actually had a scoring element in every one of them, you know. So, like, the games are named. Young players love listening to the name of a game. You can call a game any name, you know, but every game has to have a certain name, you know, because at the end of the day, we're just going to play this game. Well, the reason we're playing this game is because this is stereotypical of a sort of a thing that might happen in a game. So you're playing games that are relevant to game situations. So, for example, the drop down and drive. So 4 players would run, they would drop down, the other 4 players would break from deep. So you're actually recreating a situation where there might be gaps appear in the field where you're looking to actually break lines, you're actually looking to create overlaps, you're looking to create 3v2s, you know, 3v1s, situations that just occur in a game. You know, kick and transition, like you're in the middle third, like so you kick the ball in, you transition, you move forward. Like transition's not a new word. It's not a new word. Transition has been in Gaelic football for hundreds of years. Transition is the ability to move from one place to another place. So it's the ability to move from defence to attack and vice versa. You know, and like Joe actually wrote an article and it was absolutely hilarious. And the only reason I read it was because it's a paper that I write in myself, the Gaelic Life. And he wrote an article and he talked that Dublin don't transition. Like, what nonsense is that? Like, that's nonsense. Like, pure and utter nonsense. Like, Dublin have the reason Dublin are so pretty on the eye. To be under no illusions, I sat in Croke Park last year and watched Dublin playing Tyrone. Dublin don't play man to man. Dublin have a very, very rigid defensive system, but they break with so much pace and so much flair that it looks really, really offensive. You know, and anybody who's got any sort of an analytical eye for the game, and anybody who knows anything about coaching will know that and will respect that. You know, and I think that some of the nonsense that was talked about, and to be honest with you, it actually drove us on a little bit. Not me personally, obviously, like, but I take criticism on the chin. I can handle it very, very easily, but. You know, for people close to me, like for the likes of my father, you know, he would obviously have taken that criticism very personally and things like that. And you know, I think it's pretty unfair, you know, when you're judging something that you've never ever seen, you know, but listen, it helped us, and it wasn't just Joe and the likes of that. There was a lot of other little nibbles in the media at us, you know. People love to poke fun at Carlow. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the colour of the jersey, small county. But we had a lot of little motivational tools there that we used throughout the year, and it actually helped drive us on. It was fantastic, you know. And we didn't need much other motivation, but it helped. Every little bit helped, you know.
Can we just go back a little bit, because it feels to me like there's a bit of a suspicion of coaching from certain aspects of punditry, where I don't know why this is, but like it feels like GA punditry hasn't quite yet evolved to the point where we can have conversations about what's actually happening on the field of play. Like, Dublin have a basketball coach teaching them how to play Gaelic football, and like, that to me is the ultimate. Here's the best team that we've ever seen play Gaelic football, or certainly one of the 2 best teams that we've ever seen play Gaelic football, and they've got a basketball coach teaching them what the roles are to try and apparently it was allegedly to overcome the blanket defence, but it was obviously clearly far more far-reaching than that. So the evolution in thinking from the best and most successful county is to look outside the sport and take one of the most technically advanced coaching sports there is, with lots of terminology around it, and translate this into Gaelic football. So it seems to me that the trend is actually in favour of a better, higher elevation in terms of coaching and the descriptors that we use around it, as opposed to this, I don't really understand what these words are, and so therefore it's bollocks.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. And you have to embrace all the sports. You know, like you look at Jim McGuinness. You know, Jim McGuinness was one of the greatest innovators in Gaelic games when he came along 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it was, you know, and he obviously turned a Donegal team who had been beaten by 15 points out the gate in Crossmaglen in 2010 to within a kick on the ball the following year winning All-Ireland, you know, and obviously then the year after that won an All-Ireland comfortably. You know, people were very critical of Jim's system, but people were quick to forget that the way they played, the scores they rattled up, the same with Tyrone last year. You know, and I think that the opportunity to embrace other sports, other coaching methods is better for our game, you know, and it's going to improve our game, obviously, ultimately improve our game. Like, we started back in November just playing a bit of football, and I'll be completely honest with you here now. Damien Sheehan, who is the strength conditioning coach for Carlow, does a lot of work with the lads in the gym. You know, we've access to Carlow IT. There's a lot of there's a lot of good structures in Carlow in place, but every session on the field, it revolved around the ball. It was player-centred. It revolved around the ball. It revolved around offensive play. It revolved around small-sided games. It revolved around scoring. We never once sat players down and says, run from there to there. It was always with the ball. It was always thinking, you know, game situations, right, this is what happens here. And trying to ultimately create thinking footballers. You know, and I think that you ask any Carlow player, and I'd be disappointed if anyone said otherwise, but you ask any Carlow player, have they enjoyed training this year? And they've loved it. They've loved coming to training. They come to training with a smile on their face, and they leave with a smile on their face. And maybe that's just my style. You know, every style is different. I don't judge people. You know, I respect all coaches. And I probably respect the view of coaches who are brave enough to put themselves in the front line. You know, I don't really respect people who sit and criticise coaching when they've actually never had the balls as such to actually go and do it themselves. You know, and that for me, those opinions don't really matter. You know, it's the opinions of people within the game who know the game, who, you know, are coaching themselves, who are putting themselves in the front line. Because I'll tell you what, it's a tough gig. It's a tough gig, and with the way the media is and the way social media is now, you know, you put yourself out there. Like we certainly had a target on our backs this year. You know, people criticised Carlow there, you know, last year for, you know, probably the social media aspect or whatever, that, you know, we're plastered all over Twitter, we've done nothing, whatever, you know. But we embrace that. You know, we embrace that. The players have a laugh, they have a joke. You know, you talked about Sean Gannon and Paul Broderick doing the little podcast for the weaker counties. And I thought it was hilarious. You know, and the lads would say, what do you think? We'll put that in. Sure, why not? Why would you not put that in? It's real. You're human. You know, the lads are human. They're people, like, you know, they've got lives outside of football. Football is to be enjoyed, like, you know, it's not to be a chore, like, and that's something that we've created. That's a culture we've created in Carlow. That's, you know, a testament to Turlough. He's a fantastic player, man. If lads need a night off training for an exam, they get it. Like, I'm hearing stories here locally, like, of a lad that went away for a weekend with a girlfriend or something like that, and he was dropped or something along those lines because he missed one training session. Like those stories are horrific. Like, you know, I don't know why it happens, because players have lives. Like, you know, football shouldn't be gun held to the head. It should be enjoyable. It should be there for a release as well. And I think as well too, and it's probably something worth mentioning, in a society and an era when there's so many problems, you know, socially, and a lot of mental health problems as well. And I know, like, at some stage in your life, 1 in 3 people are affected by it. I think football is a great release, and you know, there's no better sanctuary, there's no better place. You're in with your friends, you're in with your family, you know, you're in with your teammates, and that's what it's been like in Carlow this year. It's been a real family atmosphere. We've created a culture in the county that has been like a club team, and I think that's one of the greatest challenges at inter-county level, is trying to create that club culture. And that's something we've certainly had, because the spirit and the camaraderie among those boys is absolutely unbelievable. And it's one of the best. It's one of the best I've ever worked with and ever been involved with.
Yeah, I guess it kind of sums up what the GAA should be, because I think that there's this element at the moment, and to a certain extent it's a correct element, that there is a protectionism against the elitism and the protectionism of what the GAA stands for and where it's come from, and to stop this spread into the over-elitism, as in you can talk about the Sky deal and stuff like that. But I do think when you talk about the protecting of those GAA ideals, there is sort of a regaling against new ideas when it comes to on-the-pitch stuff, and there is a stubbornness against, I guess, tactics, and I guess thinking about the football in a different manner, which is a different thing. I mean, you can enjoy your football and think about it in a very smart way as well.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. Like, at the end of the day, you know, we've tried to create a training environment there where the players, you know, everyone knows what's going on. You know, let's be under no illusions. Like, I want probably going back again. I don't want to touch on it too long, because it's not about that. It's about Carlow. Like, but going back to the names of those games, for example, like, you know, that it's. You're right. You know, we would have had a number of calls this year, things like you try and be innovative, you know, you try and be creative with your coaching, and the players know exactly what's going on. Like, the players know exactly what's going on. They're not stupid, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, I think it is about, obviously, you know, you talked about elitism, and it's something I might actually just go on to it. It's something that sort of grinds my gears a little bit. Like, take, for example, the Sunday game. You know, you look at last year, the coverage that Carlow got last year, the calls for a B championship, you know, and I'm very passionate about this, and it's not just because I'm working with Carlow, because at the end of the day, my own county Down here, if Down are to lose their next 2 games, would that technically put Down into a B championship next year? Because I know fine right it wouldn't sit well with the people here in Down, you know, because Down have an aspiration and an expectation every year to win Ulster titles. So you're telling Down that if they get relegated to Division 3, you're in a B championship. It would be frowned upon, you know. And I think one of the things, and just without going off record here, off track, is that when you're talking about a B championship, would it get the respect? Like, there's, for example, last year, Carlow got 54 seconds, I think it was. We timed it. It was actually very funny. We joked about it. We laughed about it. 54 seconds of coverage, I think, the night we beat Leitrim. You know, 54 seconds on the Sunday game. You know, I think 2 weeks ago, Colin O'Rourke was on the show. He couldn't even bring himself to mention the word Carlow. We were top of the league. We were actually top of the league on score difference, and he was talking about Laois. You know, and I'm sitting there absolutely bamboozled, thinking, like, what? Like, if that's the respect that you're showing, like, you know, a county that hasn't been promoted in 33 years, and fair play to Martin Clark, he was in the show on Sunday night, and he did mention it, and he did talk about it a little bit, and he talked about how Carlow were a prime example of a group of players who were, you know, after chasing one thing and one goal, and, you know, Spillane mentioned it a little bit, but, like, if that's the level of respect you're getting, like, I'm to be honest with you, I am sick and tired of listening to the same, nonsense coming out of the same people's mouths every single week when they're interviewed, oh, it's going to be a very difficult game this week. Let's have something new. Let's have something fresh. Like, for example, last year when Turlough was in the Sunday game, like, a lot of people wouldn't have known that Turlough O'Brien had wrote a book on cycling last year. A lot of people wouldn't know that his passion and his love is Carlow and it's cycling, and he cycled all around the world. Are those stories going to appear about just for talk's sake Jim Gavin, for example? Probably not, because they don't allow people in. And it's this, you're talking about elitism. Like, we need to be very careful in the game. And I think stories like Carlow should be embraced a lot more. And it's not just Carlow. There's so many other counties out there with stories. There's so many other managers out there with stories. Go and give these people the coverage, because to be honest with you, people are sick listening to the same stuff every single week. Like,
yeah,
it's boring. Right. It is boring, to be honest with you.
I think the attitude that you guys have to making the players feel free to go out and express themselves as human beings off the pitch, you're beginning to see the impact of trusting them on the field, and you've obviously had that as a cornerstone of your philosophy. So listen, it's been brilliant talking to you this morning. Thanks so much for making the time for us, and we'll talk to you again real soon, Stephen. Cheers.
Not a problem. Thanks very much. Thanks, guys.